Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm Bob Spitz with my partner, Tony Falcaro. Yes, Tony Falcaro. Tony Whistler.
I've changed my name.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking before we started the show about the old days and being on tour and seminars, and Tony
Yep.
Falcaro was one of my teammates, and so Tony became Tony Falcaro. Sorry,
Okay, well,
Tony.
not a problem.
Yeah. And joining us today is Dan Vasquez of Performance Motorworks up in Northern California. What town are you in, Dan?
Rockland, California. Yeah.
Rockland. Dan, take a moment and introduce yourself, where Rockland is, the kind of work you do, how long you've been in business, all that jazz.
Yeah, you bet. So yeah, my name's Dan, and Performance Motorworks is my shop. I've owned it for the last 10 years. We specialize in European vehicles. We're in Rockland, which is kind of a suburb of Sacramento, so a little bit out of the Bay Area. I have 4 technicians, a service advisor slash manager, and an assistant service advisor up on my front counter. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about going digital today. It's something I'm really passionate about, so it's really cool.
Right. Yeah. You tipped them off on what today's subject is all about, and that is how to create a paperless shop. And Dan and I were speaking earlier, and there's different degrees of when we say paperless, what are we really talking about? So when we talk about paperless, Dan, what are we talking about in your shop?
Yeah, so I think it's been a little bit of a progression for me. So it started with, digitizing my SMS, right? And I did that back in 2018. I went with Shopware. There's a lot of softwares out there now, but I kind of have, what I kind of say is it's not really a piece of software. It's a mentality more than anything, going digital, wanting to, achieve, a paperless environment, a digital workflow, and to be able really to monitor your shop from anywhere at any time. So it's not just one piece of the puzzle, and it's not just running out and jumping on, Shopware or TechMetric or AutoLeap. There's a bunch of pieces of software out there, and they all have their pluses and minuses to them. But it's really about looking at your shop and saying, could I run better digitally? What would that look like? And what do I, have to do to achieve it?
So is being browser based as opposed to desktop, an application on your computer, was that an important part of your decision making as well?
Yeah. So cloud-based, so not having software to manage and being able to log in from anywhere. And at the end of the day, there's lots of remote admin softwares out there. Even before that, I could remote admin into the shop from home, but it's just kind of having that seamless integration, and what I wanted was not like a bolt-on digital inspection, something that would not bolt on specifically their software, but not a bolt-on inspection service that integrated with an SMS. I wanted an SMS that was everything, kind of all in one. And that was my goal. And at the time back in 2018, there wasn't a lot of, heavy contenders there. Software really was the front runner. And now you got other guys like TechMetric and some of the other ones. And like I said, they're all really good. They all have their pluses and minuses, but I don't think there's one software out there that's just going to tick every box for everyone, right?
Well, I know one company that's trying to achieve that goal, and we're
Yeah.
not allowed to
Who are
actually
they?
talk about that right now, but
Yeah, who's that, Bob?
yeah.
Well,
So
I look forward to that. Go ahead, Bob.
So what was your driver? What made you want to go digital in the shop?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a digital guy, right? I mean, I'm at the age where, I'm a Gen X, right? So I'm not a millennial, I'm not a boomer, I'm somewhere in between, right? So I'm old enough to know what it's like to use a pen and paper and read books, but I'm young enough to know what it's like to have a Kindle and read your books on that, and use a computer and use a tablet, right? So I'm kind of somewhere in between, but I tend to lean towards the digital environment, right? I was a computer geek when I moved over to this shop and bought into this shop. And so I wanted to take my computer geekiness and carry it out here, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm the kind of guy, when you go to my house, you walk in the front door and you go, Alexa, turn on my lights, and she sets everything up for you. That's just kind of how I'm wired. And I think that's important too when you think about taking your shop digital. I mean, don't do it just to do it. Do it because it fits you and it's going to work for you, right? And so
Hmm.
I wanted to carry out my personal life and how I lived life personally into work and have the same features and automations in my business that I did at home, basically.
Sure. So you naturally embrace technology. You're attracted
I,
to technology,
yes, yes,
which is kind of an
absolutely.
extension. You work on some very sophisticated vehicles,
Yes, we
and
do. Yeah, yep.
especially German cars. They've been in the forefront of technology, well, for a long time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even when
Yeah,
I was working in shops, it was Bosch who first had electronic fuel injection. I mean, we knew about fuel injection, but electronic fuel injection, that was something exciting and new. And Bosch was one of the forerunners. So you see a lot of technology in the cars you work on.
that's true. Yeah, working at a BMW dealer before, coming over to this shop, we were on the cutting edge, right? We were always dealing with cutting edge technology. And when I left the dealership, my biggest fear was no longer being cutting edge. And so I was going to do everything in my power to remain cutting edge. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job, of doing that with my team. Because even the dealerships aren't as digital as we are because they're bigger and they have more red tape to cut through, or to work through more
Hmm.
bureaucracy to kind of get through to go fully digital. And so our customers are coming over here and they go, gosh, I was at the dealer and they're like prehistoric and your guys are way advanced. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I was coming
That's what I
for,
want to
Yeah,
hear.
absolutely. Very
So let
good.
me ask you, so when you made that decision, look, you're a digital guy, you embrace technology, you go, this shop's in the dark ages here. We're handwriting repair orders and
Mhm.
we're doing paper inspections, and I want to bring this into the 21st century. I want to embrace the technology that's involved. Did you have an overall plan of how you were going to execute that, how you were going to do that?
To be
Because it
honest, I
can be
didn't.
sound daunting to
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
not there.
I'd like to say that I did. I'd like to say that I was super prepared and I'm just totally on my game. And I had a well-written plan that I spent months, curating, but
Mapping out.
yeah, exactly. But I'd be a liar if I said that. I'd be a total liar. I was just young and dumb enough to just be like, hey, I had been following Carolyn, who's the CEO of Shopware, and I saw that she was kind of the one person at the time who had this really, cool software. And at the time, I had been thinking about trying to write my own, because I'm just like, well, I want a digital workflow. I want a TV. I don't want to, I don't want to walk over and hand people ROs. I want to pass them to them digitally. And so I was starting to think about writing my own software. And then I remembered that I'm not a software engineer. I'm a nerd, but I'm not that nerdy. And so then I started looking at the time, like I said, I see Carolyn's running her shop on this stuff and she sells it as a piece of software. And I thought this stuff's really great, and I got a trial and then I held off for a little while because I didn't think it was quite ready for, it didn't quite meet my needs. It had some missing pieces. And so it was about a year later that I finally, took the plunge. And when I took the plunge, I was pretty well all in, and I think that's important too. I think that if you're going to do it, I know a lot of shops like, hey, we went and got this digital software, and I'm trying to figure out, so when we hand the technician the paper work order, and the workflow, and I'm like, well, why did you print the work order? You're not all in. You're still using it as a crutch, and I think that it's important. I think that that's one thing you need to plan on is once you jump in, you got to jump in with both hands and both feet. You got to embrace it if you're going to do it.
I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
was there an evolution of the software itself that brought you to after that little bit of that year time? Was it like the software wasn't really where you wanted it to be, but then eventually it got to where you wanted it to be, and that's when you pulled the trigger? Or was it more about you and you getting prepared to actually make that jump?
I would say it was 50-50. It was a little bit of both. At the time I wasn't with Drive yet. I had a couple other shop owners who were kind of mentors to me. and one of them was kind of looking too, and he kept saying, I don't know, man, I don't think it's ready for prime time, and there was some issues with their parts inventory and some other things that were kind of holding me back, and part of it was my fear, and I kept thinking I was going to find this software that was going to do everything, and it just, I had to kind of come to terms with, it doesn't exist. So you find the software that does most of what you need, and then you make sure that you invest in a company who's invested in themselves, and it's constantly doing R&D and constantly progressing. And I have to say, I mean, obviously I'm not not a spokesperson for Shopware, but they've honored their part of the bargain, right? Their agreement, which is they are constantly developing, they're constantly making changes for the better. They're listening to feedback. And like I said, there's a lot of great ones out there. I'm not trying to promote Shopware, but I've been happy with them because the software evolved over that year that I was waiting, and I finally got on board. And then since 2018, since I've been with them, I mean, it's evolved, tenfold. I mean, they're doing awesome things. It's really good.
That's
Cool.
great. You brought up a key point, and that is when you make the decision to go, then go.
Yeah.
Don't just don't dabble in it, but actually go for it. Because one of the things that we've seen is shops make the decision that they want to have a DVI, digital vehicle inspection. They want to put that in place, and it fails. They don't get buy-in. They don't push it through to completion, and they end up going back to a paper system. So what was one of the things that you did besides your own decision from an executive command decision? Hey, we're going to do this.
Right.
What's
Right.
one of the things you did to get buy-in as opposed to just hammering it down on your guys?
Well, I talked to them all, and I said, how do you guys feel about this? And at the time, my shop foreman, he was about 63, and I had another lead tech who was in his mid 50s, and then I had a couple guys who were a little bit younger. And I thought, gosh, I hope they're going to be on board, and I've heard just horror stories of other shops trying to go digital, and just the guys aren't on board, and they're fighting them every step of the way. And so I pitched it to them, and I kind of showed them a little bit about what the software looked like, and they're all like, "That's awesome! Yeah, we'll totally do that." And I was like, "Really, really?" So I mean, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe I should play the lottery, because I just feel really lucky that they really
Or
embrace.
you missed your true calling, and that's sales.
Yes, yeah,
Selling
maybe,
software.
maybe. But the other thing I did too was like, hey guys, here's the thing about the software: it can run on anything because it's web based. I said, so you can run it on your phone, you can run it on a tablet, you can run it on a laptop, you can run it on a Chromebook, you can run it on a computer. I said, what do you guys need? What do you guys want? Tell me. I'm not going to tell you, here's a tablet, you have to use this. Tell me what you want to use. Do you want a tablet? Do you want a laptop? Do you want both? And I was just really open, and I was invested into putting and not everybody wanted the tablets. I bought some tablets, and some of the guys gave them back and said, you know what, I like taking the pictures with my phone and then typing my notes on my computer when I'm done, and I don't feel like the tablet works for me. And then I have other guys who they're on the tablet all day and they love that. So I think you need to offer that flexibility with the tools that they're going to use, with the hardware that they're going to use, so that they're comfortable, right? Because everybody works differently.
Oh, that's something I hadn't thought about at all. But yeah, I love that idea. You can what they interface with, you let them decide what they're comfortable with. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the
Yeah.
great part about being web-based, is you're not limited to, hey, I have to have this tablet or I have to have this computer. No, it's pretty open. Yeah.
Yeah, or some predatory piece of hardware or something.
Right. Right.
Now, one of the concerns that some shop owners have, especially older ones, is what if I lose power? What if I lose internet connection? What if the sky falls
Well, if the
and I've
sky
got
falls, the
everything in
sky
the
falls, right?
cloud and
I
I
mean,
can't access
yeah,
it?
yeah. So, okay, so I've been with them since 2018. We're 2024, right? One time we had an outage that lasted. We had an internet outage that lasted 5 hours. That's the worst it's ever been in almost 6 years. That was the worst time. And basically, I took my phone, I made a hotspot to my router, and we all ran off of my cell phone. and we ran a little bit slower. But that's the other thing. So not only do you have your Wi-Fi, but you've got cell phone hotspots, right? And you can always buy, Verizon MiFi or something like that hotspot as a backup. But knock on wood, I mean, there's only been 2 or 3 times really where we've had outages. The only times I've had outages, they've been short. They've been anywhere between a minute to a half an hour where we've had some sort of outage either, and it's usually like, because it's hosted on the Amazon cloud, and that's most everybody's using AWS, right, for their cloud storage, and they have like a 99.9% uptime. But I mean, let's face it, if the power goes out, you're kind of crippled anyway, right? Because you got no lights, your lifts aren't working right. The guys already want to go home because they're like, power's out, let's go home and play, So you've kind of lost them anyway. So I don't think I wouldn't worry about those things. It hasn't been an issue for me. I should say that in several years now. It really has never become a big issue.
But
Good.
you did, but your redundancy is that you have a hotspot. That's what you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the redundancy. Yeah, you got to have something.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Brittany from A&M says hi and congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks, Brittany. Hi.
I'm not quite sure what she's congratulating you on. Is it the tractor? Is it the farm? Is it
I don't know. I'll
going
take it.
going digital? He'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. I was
That's
calling
awesome.
Dan earlier and I'm hearing roosters in the background.
Yeah.
He told me he was at his
Awesome.
neighbor's place helping him and he had his tractor and laying out bark for the guy and and that leads me to my next point, going digital with your workflow and your repair orders and inspections. How has that helped efficiency in the shop?
Yeah, it's quite a bit, right? I mean, it's a pretty big deal, when if you think about even just the logistics of, paperwork orders, and I'm gonna get this paperwork order, I'm gonna print it. I mean, I think we're all beyond pen and paper, but we know a lot of us, a lot of shops, they're using Woodworks or Mitchell or some software where they're printing the work orders and they have, this row of folders, right? And so your service advisors walking out into the shop and they're dispatching the jobs, they're lining them up for the techs, and then the tech's getting those jobs, and then he's handwriting on it, he's walking it back up to the service advisor, putting in some kind of a bin, versus the service advisor taking a mouse and just dragging it over to the technician's box. And it takes 1 second and he gets a little ding on his computer, he or she, and they click on it and boom, it's in their box, right? And it's in order. They dispatch them in order. And everybody at my shop, we work from top to bottom, just like you would work top to bottom on a racking system. And then being able to just see the workflow, like for me and my service advisors, you can see who has what job, you can see how many hours they have in process, where they're at with it. I mean, everything's just instant. It's beautiful. It really is.
Very cool.
Fantastic. Yeah. Everything I've heard, needless to say, when I worked in shops, we had nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, didn't even have a thought of something. And so what you just described is the way we worked.
Mhm.
So hearing that advancement in technology and how it does help in the efficiency, well, that naturally leads to it should increase average ticket, technician increase in production, which
Mhm.
all leads up to better gross sales for the shop.
Yeah, it took a little while. It's not necessarily instant, right? Because there's a learning curve, and then there's a lot of pieces, to the puzzle. As I mentioned, there's no SMS. It's just a one-stop shop that does everything. So then, so we started doing that, right? And then the next step was, well, now I've got all these paper credit card receipts and no work order to attach them to. So what do I do with all these dumb little paper receipts? I'm going to keep an envelope of receipts, and now I'm back to paper. So then I got integrated with 360 payments and got that all digital and got the text to pay. And then, so now we're taking work orders and we're passing them back and forth digitally. But we're still communicating verbally. We're still walking back and talking to the text. So then I put Slack into place so that we can communicate digitally as well.
Is that a
And it's
texting platform?
yeah, it's
Slack?
kind of Slack. It's kind of like a Microsoft Teams, right? So it's yeah, so you can have like chat rooms or you can have direct messaging, kind of like an instant messaging platform. And it's great, you know, because I have chat channels, they call them channels for everything, you know. So parts requests, special tool problems requests, uniform. I got a channel for uniforms, and the goal really is, I think everybody knows it is the more you can keep your technician in his or her bay working, the better off you're going to be, right?
Yep.
And so anytime that technician steps away to go ask the service advisor a question, say, hey, where's my part? Hey, what's going on with this? Or vice versa, he's not working on a car.
Yeah,
And so
you've now lost 5-10 minutes
Yep.
yeah,
times 4 technicians times 8 hours in a day times.
exactly. Yeah. And that's why, you know, so however we can communicate and do work digitally without getting them out of their stalls. That's why it's like, you want a laptop, you want a tablet, you want a new phone, I don't care. Whatever it takes to keep you in your bay working, let's do this, you know. And ARO, you know, went up immediately, was doing the digital inspections. And then obviously I did all this before I was with Drive. And as soon as I got with Drive and started really, you know, taking advantage and learning more and more about my business, you know, now our ARO, we're at $1,100 a work order is our ARO for the entire year last year.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Euro shop, so we're a little bit, you know, higher in that, but I'm proud of that. It's a pretty good number. It's been a while to get there, but yeah, all these things have done that. And my, you know, efficiency, the technicians' efficiency, we've been working on that, and they're doing really well too, better than ever. We had a great year last year, so
Very good.
yeah,
I have a
I
quick
think it's
question.
a lot of pieces. Yeah, go ahead.
So with that system in place, what you have, we're talking a lot about workflow and about getting the work out and getting it in. But now you also use some software with us. You have like you're using our KPI application, and I know you're a pretty good whiz with our playbook app.
Yeah.
So how does that integrate?
Well, that's been awesome. You know, the playbook app. So the funny thing is, like, when I found Shopware, I was like, yeah, that was my vision. That's what I wanted for my shop. And I jumped on it, right? And then when you guys came out with your playbook software, I was like, that was my vision. That's what I wanted for my shop. I didn't want to have somebody sign this stupid piece of paper and have to go through it. So, you know, and it's like, how do you track who knows the policies and has signed off on them or not? I'm like, I need a digital way, you know. So I was having people just, you know, I was emailing them and having people, you know, rather than sign it, you know, just email back saying, yes, I received and understand the content. And so the playbook app just totally filled that gap, and it's exactly what I needed for my shop. So anybody who's not using it, I would say, like, jump on it quick. It's awesome. I just sent out like 10 new plays to my guys, and I'm watching them. I'm watching the progress. You know, so and so has started this, so and so's finished this, and I'm like, this is awesome. You know, I told you I get passionate. Sorry, I'll stop.
No, we love it.
No,
We love that.
that's
Yeah.
we love it.
That's right.
And
We
in
love
fact,
that passion.
you know, that passion and the training that you've done with Drive and the integration of that training, those theories into your shop led you to a very lofty position. You're one of our newest masters of shop management. And
sir, yeah.
you know,
I'm
I
proud of that.
congratulate you on that.
Yep.
you.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
Yeah, in
guys.
fact, your acceptance speech is, I think it was posted in the Facebook Live for anybody who wants to watch that.
Oh,
That's
cool.
you know, that it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication to achieve that level. And I know it's very inspiring for other shop owners to see you up on stage there and achieve that, receive that award. So once again, very well done. And maybe that's what Brittany was giving you a high five
Oh,
for.
Yeah. And just a little tip, when you go watch the video, you'll notice he's not carrying a piece of paper with his speech written on it. He actually has his speech on his phone.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very paperless.
I'll let you guys in on a little side note though, which is kind of funny. My wife is the most pen and paper person you'll ever meet, and
Ah,
she is totally anti notes on the phone and this stuff. And so it's really funny, you know. She's very creative. She has a beautiful little planner that she, you know, it's perfectly meticulously done, and it works very well for her. And that's how she does it. And that's why I say too, like, if you're not a digital person and you're trying to make your shop digital, maybe it's not for you. You know, maybe you don't want to do it. You know, if you really just don't operate well that way. But if you do operate well that way, I think there's a lot of benefits to it that you're just never going to get on pen and paper.
yeah, well, just the
Awesome.
efficiency point alone is huge, and the
Mhm.
communication point, and you know, everybody has suffered through trying to read what a technician wrote about the car
Oh
on
yeah.
the
Exactly.
repair order. You go, you know, that just invites a trip into the back and go, what did you mean?
Yeah, what is
Right.
this? What word is this?
And another
Mhm.
15 minutes is lost.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time. You know, I came from the dealership atmosphere where, and dealers are all about proper notes, right? The three C's approach to note writing. And so I was a pretty good note writer, but making my technicians, growing my technicians into being good note writers, especially after going digital. You know, I didn't want my service advisor just correcting every single story, and that's how it started out. And so we took several months of training and working with the technicians to get them all uniformly doing notes and using the three C's and making it really clear what the recommendation was on the vehicle. And now, you know, I had the last time I hired a new service advisor, he came in and was like, my gosh, man, I've never seen such good notes out of technicians. How'd you get them to do that? And I'm like,
Awesome.
it
Training.
wasn't easy. It didn't take a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
That's
a
right.
lot of
It's
training and a lot of pushing. Yeah.
yeah, that insistence on your part, not backing down and training.
Yep.
And you know, it's repeating it, repeating it, repeating it, and it finally goes in. Tony, I think we need to take a station break here. We got some announcements, don't we?
Yes, we got a little commercial break. We're going to have next week. The first thing is I'll be out of town. So your guest host will be Nathan Schidler, which
Oh, good. Nathan will be with me.
he's a great consultant. He's one of our best instructors here at Drive. And he also comes from, he's worked in shops many, many years. And he also has a teaching background. So he's a great guy. And he's been a guest of ours before, but he'll be guest hosting with you. And we're going to have Mark Granum from Mobile Mark in Florida.
All
So
right, so Mark will be
that's
with us.
Mark's going to be with us. It'll be a lot of fun.
And
And
I think
that's
we have something else. There's a little hint behind our heads here about something about an
oh,
expo.
an expo. That's exactly right. And you know, the last expo was a ball, and of course, you know, our guest today, Dan, was there with his speech. This year, we're going to have an expo. It's going to be in Dallas, of course. And what are the dates on that again? That's
Well, let me see. It's June 19th and
there you go.
20th,
There you go. June
and then
19th
the
and 20th.
21st through the 22nd. So
Yes,
it's,
it's
I
going to be
guess it's
the
those
whole
4 days.
week.
Yeah,
It's going to be the
it's
whole
it's
week.
that whole week.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, there will be some shops getting certified and they will get their masters. We'll have a nice awards dinner. We'll have a nice party like we always have. Great networking. And we will have a lot of workshops that are tailored specifically for our expo. So, you know, that'll be there. Dan, will you be at the expo this year?
Yeah, I plan to. I should be there. I'm looking forward to it. I had a blast last year. It was really cool. It was one of the highlights of being with Drive was going to that expo and meeting a bunch of other shop owners and just a genuinely nice group of people, you know, within Drive, not just the organization, but all the shop owners. I mean, everybody has the same mentality. Everybody has a spirit of helping each other, and nobody really has like. I didn't run into anybody who had a big head or talked down to anybody. I mean, just a great group of people. So I would say go. If you haven't been before, go. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
And I feel that. Go.
That's
Sorry, Bob. Go on.
that's the culture that we promote, and that is one of help. We're all here to help each other and to move the whole industry into a more positive place, a very professional place for everybody to practice their craft and make a great living. You know, we're coming hard up on our stop point here, Tony. Dan, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to let you get back to your tractor and
Sounds good.
chase those roosters around and
Awesome.
have a great weekend.
It's good to see you again, Dan. And we're going to say goodnight. Good night.